Hello and welcome to the Tour Report from Secret Golf. Well, this week it is the Masters. It is the first major of 2023 and it's a huge week. Alec, this is always like the week that is everyone's looking forward to. You know, there's so much build up around it. First major, as I said, and you are there in Augusta, Georgia all week.
And do you know that the flowers, Diane, have already passed? There's nothing literally in bloom at the golf course. It happened a month ago, very rare. It's never hardly happened. I spoke to some of the guys today out there and they said, yeah, come back here a month ago. It was awesome, but there's nothing left. There's a few azaleas on the 13th tee and that's it. Yes, you're right. It's obviously I've always said that this is almost like a national forest. When you come to Augusta and you see people that walk past you at the event where I was today, and they just look at their feet and they look at the ground and they look at the holes they've seen on TV. And it's the most fantastic thing to see anyone that comes to the tournament for the first time. Yeah. Now, last night, Frank Bassett and I were at the famous T-Bones. This is a place that, Nicholas and Palmer and everybody have gone to for the last 50 years. They play live music, they eat steaks and drink wine, and they talk about all the things that there are Augusta. It really gets you into the flow, Diane. So much so that we had a great night, and off we went to the golf today. So it was the way to introduce ourselves to this annual pilgrimage down Magnolia Lane. Sometimes I was playing. Now I'm just as excited to come down and watch it.
It really is. And when you're there, you're so immersed in the week. I mean, everywhere you go, people are talking about the Masters. People that don't even know anything about golf, if they're in that part of the world, then they are fully immersed in the Masters. It's like being at Disney World for golf fans. And I remember I had been there a couple of times before I went there with you. But going with you was a completely different experience because we walked the course together. You pointed out every flower, every tree. The grass is almost like walking on fake grass. The place has to be seen to be believed, and you see it on TV. That's one thing. You've played it on video games, whatever. To actually be there, I mean, it's beyond your wildest expectations, really.
Yeah. There's nothing quite like it, and I'm glad it's that way because it's has such an impact on you when you go to it. I was up under the tree, had lunch with Fuzzy Zeller and his daughter Gretchen today. Craig Stadler came through, Hale Irwin came through. A lot of the guys like myself that have won major championships before are always invited to come back as honorary attendants to the tournament. They take care of us. Their hospitality to us is the most incredible of any event that I've ever been to. Let us in the clubhouse, do whatever we like. It's awesome. So we're going to enjoy this week, Diane. But today we've got to talk about who's going to win this tournament. And it is so crowded at the top, Diane. I don't even know what to do with this paper I'm looking at because we've got 10 or 12 guys that are almost all equal. And it's going to be very difficult, Diane, for anyone below to be able to match that kind of top end, let's call it, RPMs at the top that these guys have got. Rory McIlroy, John Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, all playing really consistent golf. Throw in Brooks Koepka and Cam Smith and Dustin Johnson, all these guys coming in from LIV. And we have got the broth here, Diane, to have a tremendous cook-off at the golf this weekend for the Masters.
I just went to pick up my coffee. You'll like this. This is my honorary coffee cup this week. It really is. It's going to be a Masters to remember. And we're doing a little catch-up video every day. And a lot of this we talked about. So you can go and check that out on YouTube and on our social media. And you'll get a lot more stuff from us this week too. But the Masters it's tradition. You're almost going into, what to expect. You're going to see pretty much the same year after year. Obviously our handicapping changes, but there's the heart of the Masters never changes. There's some things that are just going to stay the same and they don't need to change them because they're perfect the way they are. But this year is a little bit different because we have this whole LIV element and, the LIV guys being able to play in the Masters. Yes, I think we're all in agreement that was the best decision because we really do have all of the world's best back together this week. And I think people on both sides have really acknowledged that.
Well, I think I went back and reread Mr. Ridley's statement that he released regarding the live players. And basically, to paraphrase what he said is, we're going to let everybody back in the tournament that has already qualified for it.
Yeah.
So, we've got to account for Brooks Koepka, who just won his second live event. We've got to account for Dustin Johnson, who plays really good golf on this course. Could it be any more drama if Patrick Reed is playing well right now, went to Augusta State, won a national championship right here in the backyard of Augusta, and he gets thrown in the mix this week with a Rory McIlroy and all the things that have been said about those two guys. But I think at the end of the day, Diane, golf's going to get a real good shot at getting to look at all these top players. Cam Smith is one that I'll be eager to watch coming off his Open Championship win at St Andrews last year. Hadn't seen much of him since then. So Cam Smith does really well at the Masters. One loose swing last year, and it could have been his as opposed to Scotty Scheffler's on number 12, and Scotty chipped in at number 4, and that could have gone a different way. It could have been also different, and now the landscape has changed, Diane. But has it really? They're all back together. We're going to break it all down. And let's see what we got.
Tiger Woods we have to talk about as well. Obviously, Tiger being back in action this week, and that's always special. Monday morning we saw the practice round with Tiger playing with Fred Couples as always, and Rory McIlroy. It actually said on the sheet that it was Tiger playing with Bryson first of all, and then they were like, no, that was a mistake. It was Tiger playing with Rory, which would have been interesting because Bryson said over the weekend that Tiger has been ghosting him and hasn't replied to any of his text messages. Again, another level of the drama. But Tiger back in action in itself, what are the expectations around him this week?
Well, if this was year 2000 when Tiger was at his peak and he had a similar accident, then I would say that he would have a pretty good chance of being able to come out and play 2 or 3 weeks a year or 4 or 5 weeks a year and do well. There's just too much water going under the bridge. That leg is very dodgy looking, Diane, and I'm glad he's walking. I'm glad he's playing, but I just don't think – I discussed this with some of the guys from TaylorMade today. It's just not the same Tiger Woods, and I don't think he has the firepower. Yes, he hits the ball nice. Yes, he can move it right to left and left to right. Yes, he knows this course better than anyone. But I don't think he can stop the avalanche of talent around him right now. This is just a particular time in golf where we're bunched at the top with a bunch of guys that all want to do the same thing, and they're all playing really well.
Yeah, and we want to see him there for 4 days. It's like, as a golf fan, as a sports fan, as anyone who's going to be involved and watching the Masters this week, you want to see Tiger there for 4 days because it just changes things completely. Let's talk about Rory McIlroy, because he is obviously still seeking that elusive green jacket. Last year, he had a brilliant Sunday. We saw that phenomenal bunker shot that went in on 18, and he finished runner-up. Close. That was the story of Rory's year, really, until he went on to win the FedEx Cup. But what about Rory and his mindset this year?
Well, I think in regards to Rory, I think his mindset is simple. This is what he wants. So, the whole thing for Rory McIlroy, the talent's there, the form is there. He's playing good golf. He did lose a 2-up lead recently at the match play a couple of weeks ago with 3 to go. The whole question, Diane, and over the last 20 years at the Masters, we've taken the categories of what's most important. The third most important on that list is the one that's the key for Rory McIlroy, and that's called bogey avoidance. And Rory, as we know, Jack Nicklaus mentioned it recently, sometimes gets a little clumsy at times and makes a bogey or a bad swing. It costs him. He's done it. We've seen it. Can he handle the bogey avoidance? Because look, this week, it's about getting in contention. You remember when Jack Nicklaus, they posted his name on the leaderboard in the middle of the first round, or Tiger Woods at the middle of the first round. What did you know for sure when that was posted? That they're not leaving. They are not leaving that board. They are not going to fall into the bogey avoidance and drop off that board. Rory McIlroy has got to be able to control that board. If he gets up there and he can stay I think he'll win the Grand Slam, and I may pick him. I haven't quite decided. Got a little dice here. I'm going to roll on who I'm going to pick at the top this week because they're that close.
Okay. Well, we're going to get onto our picks in just a second. Let's talk about the course. And, as I said at the top of the show, everyone knows this course. I mean, we see it every year. We invest so much. We concentrate on it. We study it. We know Augusta National, but they have changed up 13 this year. That's been the real talking point. And I know you went to check it out. So what are you seeing on the 13th hole now, which is called Azalea?
Well, I went down there. The first thing I did was walk down to the 12th tee today and looked across the 13, got a sandwich and stood there and looked at it. Diane, I ran into the chairman, Mr. Ridley himself, came over and said hello to me. I played with Chairman Ridley in 1990 as a marker. He joined me in my group. So I've known him for quite a while, and he came over and talked to me. I said, Mr. Ridley, what were you trying to do with this, putting the tee back 58 yards? He said, basically, the equipment had outgrown the hole. Now we've got them back where we think they're going to hit the drive to the corner, but they're going to be on the side slope, which was always envisioned by Bobby Jones, to play a long iron shot across Rays Creek to that green. He said, really, we just want to see some guys hitting some long irons, 200, 215, 20-yard shots off that side hill lie. It's a very difficult shot. Even when I first got down there when I was a rookie and standing there with the ball above your feet, you're like, man, there's a lot of things could go wrong right here with this shot. So I heard it from the chairman himself. They think it's perfect setup. It looks beautiful, Diane. Looks like it's been there 100 years. It's not like a new tee that they put in our course. This has got a brick wall around it. Azaleas have been there for years, 40, 50-foot high trees all around the back of it. It's perfect.
Okay. And the weather is going to be a huge talking point this week because it's going to be hot for the next couple of days. But once the tournament starts, rain and thunderstorms forecast every single day. The temperature is really going to fall. And on Saturday, the high is like 55. So it's going to be a cool weekend. That's going to change things up. You were saying that the course today is soft already.
Yeah. I'm sort of careful to say it's soft. It's soft for the spectators out on the sides, walking in the pine needles. You can feel your feet squish around. I just stood there and tried to see if I could get some water to come up to see how wet the course is. Out on the golf course, it's just sitting there. Lot of grass on the golf course. They've kept it pretty high right now. Haven't cut it down much. Greens are perfect. I just think it's playing very long right now. It's just, and as this cooler weather comes in, and I start to look at the field, I start to look at these bogey avoidance. I mean, I'm really tuned in this week on bogey avoidance because I could get tuned in on driving the ball. I could get tuned in on greens and reg. I could get tuned in and on chipping and so on. But at the end of the day, Diane, you've got to get yourself onto that leaderboard and you've got to stay there. I don't think it's going to be a rush up the board at the end. There could be a long shot winner. I've got a couple of ideas, but they're going to be like your Denny Willett winner from England. He was, a 300-1 at that time? For someone to win against this field, it'll be a 250 to 300-1 shot. It won't be someone middle of the pack at all.
And just going back to the course being soft, they have that sub-air system on the course that they can kind of control it to an extent as well. So they've got the very...
They control whatever they want to control here at the Masters, Diane. You know that?
It's their world. We're just living in it. Right. Well, let's get into our picks. So we're going to do an outright favourite, a one to watch, and a dark horse. Now, we've talked about the fact that there's a real elite group that sit at the top pretty much week after week right now. And it's hard we have to move the live guys into that and consider them. But, we don't have stats on the live guys. And they're just not as exposed as the guys on the PGA Tour are. I mean, we're following every shot that Scheffler, Rahm, that Rory hits. It's kind of hard to do the same for the guys that are playing live, but we're gonna move them in and include them. But who are you putting at the top this week?
You're making me go first, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, Scotty Scheffler, I spoke to his parents. They're on the golf course today. Mr. Scheffler and Scotty's mother were there, and then his wife played golf yesterday with Scotty on the golf course. I think she said she made like 5 pars yesterday, which was outstanding. I thought, what a thrill for them. And they couldn't have been more humble, more nice. Scotty Scheffler leads the tour in bogey avoidance for the last 6 weeks on tour. The guy gets on top and stays there. It's so hard for me to pick him because I really kind of think Jon Rahm's going to win this tournament. Okay. I played with Chip Brewer. I'm dropping a lot of names today, Diane.
I love it.
I played with Chip Brewer, the CEO of Callaway Golf, on Saturday at a wedding down in Savannah. And we talked extensively about handicapping that day. And he said, you know, Rahm is at his best when someone says something negative about him. He said, we need somebody to say something negative about Jon Rahm, like he can't win at Augusta because he fades the ball, or Brandel Chambly said he's not a good enough iron player to win because he's whatever. We need that. So everything tells me that Scheffler's going to win again because but I'm going to go with Rahm. I can't believe it, but I'm going to go with Rahm. I told the CEO, I said, get Rahm a 3-wood, let him play the power fade, and when he gets on these holes that he has to turn it right to left, don't worry about trying to hook it around the corner. Hit a 3-wood, get a strong 3-wood with a draw bias, and play a particular piece of equipment to get him around these corners. I'm going to go with Rahm this week, Diane. I just think gets so pissed off with things, Rahm does. He's pissed off with not winning more majors. He's pissed off that he's not number one. He came out of the West Coast. Then he sort of didn't play well for a couple of weeks. That's it. I'm sticking with Rahm. Okay
then. I was not expecting that. I thought that you would take Rory or Scheffler.
I want to take Rory. I want to take Cam Smith. I want to take Scheffler. But I'm taking Rahm.
Okay, cool. Rahm is obviously one of the favourites, plus 900. We've got Rory and Scheffler at plus 750, plus 700. So, it's those three. I'm going to give you a 28-1 as my outright favourite.
I already know where you're going, and I love it.
Why? Because I'm taking one of your fellow countrymen.
Well, but you always are going to go for a good story and someone that, not to be just like normal person picking just a superstar. You're going to pick you're picking someone on the rise, and I know all about it. Go ahead. Let me hear it.
I'm waiting for Jason Day to win. This win is coming from him. And like, I had picked him for the Players. Why not this week? I mean, you have to be a creative shot maker at Augusta National, and Australians have done really well here. I mean, you did well. Adam Scott's won before. We were just talking about Cameron Smith. I mean, we can list off all the Aussies, but let's go with Jason Day, who's playing so well right now. Every event he's played in 2023, he's finished within the top 20. 5 of those have been within the top 10. That's amazing consistency from Jason Day. He's had 3 top 5s at the Masters. He's obviously a major winner already. So let's add another one. But again, this is a tournament he's played in many times before. He's had a lot of success at. He's playing, maybe the best golf of his career consistently right now. And I'm gonna ride it all the way at 28-1. I'm gonna pick Jason Day as my outright fave.
Well, I like the pick. Jason Day, out of that 12 or 13 guys that I've got circled on my list here, Jason Day would be at the bottom of that list. In other words, he's a good enough player to be able to push through and win this tournament just on form and experience alone. Need some experience at Augusta, but I didn't even mention some of these other guys that I was so impressed with. Sam Burns on the range today was just ridiculous what he was doing with the ball today on the range. Victor Hovland's here. Xander Schauffele was working on his short game today. Max Honma was working on his putting for hours. Cam Smith, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, all these guys, Diane, they're all pushed in there together. The LIV guys, when I think about the LIV guys, all I can do is go on that form of what they have just recently. And one thing for sure, we know they went over there, they're making a bunch of money, and that's great, but that's got to give them a lot of confidence. I mean, Brooks Koepka is probably as confident today on this day as he's ever been. Won four majors in the last 6 years. Big injured. Went back and won in Live 3 or 4 months ago over in Saudi. Now he won yesterday. Got to be feeling good. I mean, he's going to be freewheeling, Diane. He's dangerous. If I was going to, and I know you're not going to let me on a player to watch, but my player to watch would be someone like Brooks Koepka, because he's so dangerous. And I think I'll just do that right now as my one to watch, just because he's going to be so confident. We didn't talk about Phil Mickelson.
Yeah. Let me just pull up something on Brooks here, because I just want to look at his finishes at the Masters, because we all know he's had good ones. Missed the cut in 21 and in 22. But before that, he went 7th in 2020, runner-up in 2019, and 11th place in 2017. But Koepka, if you watched the Netflix documentary, he spoke about the fact that he just didn't feel that he was lacking the confidence. He didn't feel like he could go out and compete with the likes of Scheffler and Cam Smith and Rory. So now he's gone to Live. He's got all this money. He's won. So doesn't matter about anything else. All of a sudden, this guy's back to winning ways, and he's going back to a tournament with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. So
yeah, he needs that. He's like Rahm. He needs that chip. I didn't see any. I saw only friendships out there reacquainting one another on the range today. So I don't see any of that nastiness at all. So I do think Augusta will put them together. I do think they'll pair some of these guys together. I'm talking about big name pairings together. Could we see a Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods? Could we see Brooks Koepka?
Rory, and they're friends anyway. Like they are buds. So
we didn't talk about Patrick Reed, who's in good form. I mean, can you imagine Patrick Reed being in the hunt this week? That will be drama.
Koepka is 35-1.
It's a pretty good number.
Yeah. Well, my one to watch is 45-1. You and I are going to have a debate over this. Well, a discussion. But I'm going to take Will Zalatoris as my one to watch. 45-1. I don't know what Will was last year, but I'm guessing he was not 45-1 after he finished one shot behind Hideki 2 years ago and runner-up in his rookie Masters. But it's not been going great for Will lately. He had that T4 finish at the Genesis in February, and since then there's been nothing. Obviously everyone talks about his putting all the time, but I think we're back to he's played in 2 Masters and he's finished 2nd and 6th. So we're back to a place where there's going to be confidence. Use that to spur him on. And the putting's always been a bone of contention when it comes to his game. So
true. It's true. When I think of Will Zalatoris' game, I don't have any anxiety about him moving from A to B. It's always going to be that bogey avoidance stat, and does that stroke, he gets a little wobbly, whatever, will that show up? And it's tough to pick him. When you think of the Masters, Diane, you think of Ballesteros, great putter. You think of Ben Crenshaw, you think of Larry Mize, you think of Tiger, you think of, all these guys that putt so good. They're so good with the putter. Scotty Scheffler, great putter. In my head, I can't put Zalatoris in there yet until he pulls it off. But from tee to green, he's as good as any of them.
Yeah, exactly. And the course history and the fact that he has only played in 2 and he's done great. He's got really, I'm looking at his greens and reg stats. His greens and reg stats are really good. I'm going to get the putting average numbers, which they're not terrible. Like, they're really not. He was 8th at the Genesis in putting, 12th after the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Okay, 55th after the Players. But, I mean, they're not horrific. It's not like we're talking 150 or 200, so...
No, I agree with you. I know.
I mean,
yep. Okay. This week, as we move down the board, when you start to think of long shots, it really is the true definition of a long shot this week. For someone, the next player that we talk about, or the next players that could win this tournament from behind, when you think of a a Danny Willett or a Larry Mize or someone that's come from way back, way down the list. What are you thinking about for those, Diane? Are you looking at someone that is, got experience at Augusta? Are you looking for a rookie? I'm looking at a rookie.
Okay, I'm not.
Because before I say anything, there's an argument to be made this week that you could take all the first-time players at Augusta, throw them out the door. You could take all the amateurs, throw them out the door. You can take probably the past champions at Augusta, throw them out the door. You could take all the players that have never won a tournament, throw them out the door. You can take all the players that haven't won a tournament within the last 2 years, throw them out the door. And what do you have left? There's about 20 guys. They got the experience. They've been there. They're playing well. Do you think someone from the floor can come up and come in?
I thought you were going to hit yourself in the face there with one.
I'm running out of paper.
Well, you've mentioned my pick a few times. He's a past champion. He won here in 2016. Danny Willett. My dark horse. He's 130 to 1. I mean, that's the kind of standard for him. But I did look, and on one of the sites in particular, they've got him at 225 to 1. So there's some high odds available because people do not think that he has a chance to win. But they did not think he had a chance to win in 2016 when he was 300 to 1. Obviously Jordan Spieth kind of made some big mistakes that year and threw it away, but Willett was there and he's playing well. We saw that terrible finish at the Fortinet when he missed 2 tiny putts to hand that trophy to Max Homa, who deserved it. He played great as well. But Willett is playing good. We've seen such an improvement in his game. And he's been there, the numbers speak for themselves. He finished 12th here last year. So it's not like the win was like one good performance that was a fluke. He hung on in there last year as well. So I am going to take him as my dark horse. And I said 130 to 1. That's kind of the average for him this year. But yeah, I'm going to go with it.
I like your boldness.
Okay.
When I think about a dark horse, who should be almost considered a dark horse that is not at all a dark horse would be someone like Cameron Young. He's never won on tour, not a rookie here, but he's a superstar waiting to happen. Could someone like Cameron Young that's never won a PGA Tour event, one of my cards that went on the ground here a minute ago, could a non-winner, he would be one guy that could do it, I think, now that he has a sort of experienced caddy. Not that the other caddy wasn't any good, but this caddy's better. Paul Tesori is better. I'm going to look a little bit further down. I'm going to look at even lesser chance, Diane. I'm going to take a guy that I think has a lot of pizzazz, and that's a kid we all got introduced to at the Players' Championship from Australia, Minwoo Lee. And his sister, Minji Lee, said he's the biggest show-off in the world. Well, guess what? This is the week. If you're going to show something off, this is the week you're going to do it. And he's only a little guy, but he has 190-mile-an-hour ball speed, Diane. Hits the ball a mile, obviously, like all these guys do. But Minwoo Lee is a monster driver of the ball. And will this be a sort of a coming-out party for Minwoo Lee? I hope so, because he's my dark horse. And what you're going to tell me his odds? He's got to be 300.
He's 65 to 1.
That's terrible.
60.
We got to have him higher than that somewhere else.
I am going to look for you.
Got to be higher than that.
Well, the highest I can find him is 80 to 1.
Oh, terrible. I thought he'd be more.
Yeah, he's got better odds than Tiger.
Does he?
Tiger's 85 to 1.
Well, it's going to be that kind of week. So I can't find anyone else that I think can come up and do anything. I want someone to show off. The only kid that can do it is someone that's got that much show off in him, that could maybe push through and beat these guys at the top.
Yeah. Maybe the show off is not the right phrase for this guy, but someone with that real kind of like the star power and youth. Tom Kim would be another name.
Yeah.
This is his first Masters that he's playing in. But, you know, I said that Zalatoris finished second in his first. Fuzzy Zeller, your friend, he was a rookie and he went out and won this
the only rookie that's ever won the Masters, yeah. Fuzzy Zeller.
Back in 79. So Tom Kim could be a good one to look at this week as well. You know, obviously he's just got an amazing talent.
Now, talking about other guys with talent, is it going to shock you if Tyrrell Hatton plays good this week out of nowhere, because he's played so well on the West over here in America while on this last trip, and he's a very straight hitter. Doesn't make many mistakes. I'm all over that bogey avoidance stat this week. If you go to the SG Tour app this week, we'll have lots of games up this week, Diane. Check out the stats, but look at the bogey avoidance, and you can see for yourself the guys that once they get on the board, they're not leaving.
Yeah, well, Patrick Cantley has got phenomenal stats in that category. So does Max Homa. I mean, all these guys that are in contention kind of week after week. Matt Fitzpatrick is another one with really good. He's top 20 for bogey avoidance all the time. So with the colder weather this week as well, that is a factor that plays into the hands of Fitzpatrick and Tyrrell Hatton. Danny Willett, these English guys that have grown up playing in these conditions, the Australian guys too. You know, we talked about that you have to be creative to play around here. And, you know, with that windy, rainy conditions, those guys, they love it.
I think hitting the ball far this week is going to help too. I mean, you know, high and far. If I'm playing with Rory and, you know, we tee off 18 and he hits high and far down the fairway, 300 yards, and I'm at 280, you know, he's going to be hitting 9-iron to the green. I'm hitting a 5-iron, you know, so it's a big advantage to hit the ball far at Augusta for sure. And you know, we've seen years before, like Mike Weir when he won, or Zach Johnson when we had wetter, colder weeks, Diane, where the par fives weren't reachable, and a lot of players had to play their wedge shots, and that's where some of these shorter range players like a Zach Johnson, like a Mike Weir came up and won. I don't think that's the case this week. There's too many guys with too much power. You know, I don't care if it snows. Rahm, Scheffler, Rory, they're all getting to these par fives all day long, and we're not even talking about Dustin Johnson and Brooks. They're all going for it. And I just think this week, Diane, if this was horses, we're talking about horse racing, there's a dozen thoroughbreds. We've mentioned them all, almost all of them. Probably left out a couple of them. Schauffele, I don't think I mentioned, or Spieth, but there's about a dozen of them. They're going to set the pace. Let's say the pace is, I don't know, let's say the pace is 12 under going to Sunday. Who's down the list that can actually is capable of getting to 12 under down below and playing that kind of good golf around all this action? And that's really what you're looking for in a long shot. But I think this tournament's going to be settled at the top and once and for all. And it'll be interesting. What if a live player wins this, Diane? Is that going to throw a wrench into everything? Or is it just going to be, hey, we're going to have to live. We're going to have to live together now. These guys are for real. They're not actually all retired and not playing anymore, etc.
Well, Greg Norman and Brooks Koepka have both said that if a live player does win, that all of the live guys are going to be around that green, the 18th green on Sunday, to congratulate them. So it's kind of like, I don't think it's like an us v them, like a little gang thing, but, you know, these guys are, they have this one thing in common now, and it's that they are all, you know, playing on the disruptive golf league, so they call it. So I think they will stick together, and that, I mean, who knows? To be honest, I would love to see a head-to-head battle between someone like DJ or Cam Smith or Brooks with the likes of Rory, Rahm, Scheffler on Sunday. Like, that is entertainment to the max.
And by the way, just for my own, people ask me all the time what my thoughts are on LIV. I don't think it's disruptive at all. It's only slightly disruptive when LIV is in the US playing against the Tour. When LIV goes to Australia, it's going to be huge in Australia. And when they go to Singapore, it's going to be massive for the kids in Singapore to see all these good players play. It will be an example that the Tour will go, hey, wow, we should be in Singapore. Or, you know, in other words, when it goes overseas, it's easier to accept the product for what it is than it is when they're playing right in Orlando last week, for example. You sort of feel like you have to pick one side or the other. I don't actually do that. I watch both. I'm looking for good golf. I'm looking for good swings. I got friends on both tours. I'm pulling for this and that and so on. So, I want to see good players. I want to see good golf.
Yeah, well, Jason Kokrak, who's a secret golf contributor, he's part of LIV now. He finished in the top 15 last year at the Masters. There was a heap of them that played really well last year, guys that have now moved across, who are back this year. So who knows? Who knows? I can't wait to see it all begin to unfold on Thursday.
And the last thing that we can only hope for, of course, would be a Patrick Reed to play well and get asked a stupid question and then respond in a Patrick Reed way and just completely flip the telecast on its head. And there we go. Off we go.
Poor Fred. So Fred's going to have a stressful week.
Well, according to you, Rory McIlroy is not going to complete the Grand Slam this week, or might he?
I would, yeah, you know me, I'm a huge Rory fan. I would love to see it. Would love to see it, especially after the way that he ended last year and finished runner-up, and the disappointment at the Open Championship, because I was all in on him for there to win at St Andrews. But yeah, I would love to see Rory win. Of course, I would. And Spieth, this will be the last thing that we say. Spieth. This is is it coincidence or what? But he has won on Easter Sunday the last 2 years. The Texas Open, RBC Heritage last year. Sunday is Easter Sunday.
So I heard your little superstition. How about this one? In 2019, when Corey Connors won at San Antonio, Tiger Woods won the Masters. Mm-hmm. And last week, Corey Connors won in San Antonio. So does that mean... Your friend Michael McEwen, I'm giving him credit for that text that I read on his feed this morning. So
85-1. Okay. Well, you're there all week. As I said, we're going to have a little video catch up with you every day. No phones allowed on the course. Anyone who's been there, that's just the thing. There's no phones allowed on Augusta National. You're allowed to take a camera with you, like a disposable camera or whatever, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But we'll catch up with you on Tuesday and on Wednesday once you leave the court.
I might do it. I might do it on the way in as well, just from the car, and tell you what I'm going to try to do. But I'm going to try to bring course conditions, pairings that's happening on the course that day, try to get a good feel for what's going to happen with the ball once it lands and rolls out, what's happening, who looks good, etc. Okay. Give you everything else in cuisine and fashion.
My only request would be for you to go to the merchandise, either the Masters merchandise shop or the Clubhouse shop, and see if they have anything for little babies.
Oh, you know what? I'll do that for you. No problem.
I would love it. It's not about me anymore. It's all about him.
Yeah. I'll definitely get you something.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for watching the Tour Report. Don't forget, get involved. The games are going to be brilliant this week on the SG Tour app. And we have all of our stats up there that we've been talking about too, that Elk threw up in the air. But you can go check them out. Get your picks in. And as I said, follow along this week. We've got all of Elk's drawings too. We'll have to get an updated 13th hole drawing.
Oh, we'll have to. Yeah, we'll have to do a voiceover for that.
Yeah, you can go and find some crayons somewhere and scribble it down. But just keep it here, and we will bring you everything from Augusta this week.
The SG Tour Golf Gaming app, the place for you to compete and win cash on PGA Tour events. The SG Tour is a golf experience like no other, with games designed by golf professionals. You can play single-day games and tournament-long contests each week. It's easy to get involved. Join or create a game for you and your buddies. Pick 4 players and follow along with the action. And if you need some help with your picks, we've got you covered with our weekly handicapping show, The Tour Report, and exclusive content with our PGA Tour players. Join the fun and win money on the SG Tour, available in the App Store.